The course of time is really much like a course of a ship in an ocean. 'Cause here's the ship, you see, and it leaves behind a wake. And the wake fades out. And that tells us where the ship has been. In just the same way, the past and the memory of the past tells us what we've done. But as we go back into the past, and we go back and back into history, we use all kinds of instruments and scientific methods of detecting what happened. We eventually reach a point where all records of the past fades away in just the same way as a wake of a ship. The important thing to remember is that the wake does not drive the ship, any more than the tail wags the dog. Suppose there was a neurotic and difficult child, and one school of thought says, bang him up, beat him up, and maybe it will change. Then they said, oh no, that's not fair to the child, you know, because it was the parents' fault. They didn't bring him up properly. So then they say, well, punish the parents. So then the parents say, well, excuse me, but our parents were neurotic too. And our parents brought us up badly, and we couldn't help what we did. And so since the grandparents are dead, we can't get at them. And in any case, supposing we could, we would pass the whole blame back to Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and say, they started all this mess. But then Eve would say, it was the serpent that tempted me to eat. So it's the serpent's fault. But you know God, when God said in the story of Genesis, He asked Eve, did thou eat the fruit of the tree whereof I told thou should not eat? Oh, she said, the serpent tempted me, and I eat. God looked at the serpent, and the serpent didn't have any excuse. He probably winked, because the serpent, being an angel, was wise enough to know where the present begins. So you see, if you insist on being moved, being determined by the past, that's your game. But the fact of the matter is, it all starts right now, this very moment. But we like to establish a connectivity with the past, because that gives other people the impression we're sane. Now, if you ask me why am I talking, I could say, I am making a living this way, or I have a message I want to get across to you. But that is not the reason. I am talking for the same reason why birds sing, and the same reason why stars shine. It is. I dig it. And you ask, why do you dig it? Well, I could go on answering all sorts of questions about human motivation and psychology, and it wouldn't explain a thing. Because explaining things by the past is really a refusal to explain things at all. All you're doing is postponing the explanation. You're putting it back and back. And that explains nothing. What does explain things is the present. Why do you do it now? Now this is a slight cheat, because that does not explain it neither. Because what happens now, just as the sound comes out of silence, all this comes out of nowhere. This is another connection I will explain to you in another talk. But the power of nothingness, all life suddenly merges out of space. Bang, right now. And to ask again, why does it happen, is an unprofitable question. Because the interesting thing is not why, but what. What happens? Not why does it happen. I can say, well, I am doing this now because I did that then, and I am producing for you a continuous line of thought. But actually, I am doing it backwards. I'm always doing it from now, and connecting up with what I did so you can see a consistent story. If I define myself as a whole field of events, we'll say the organism of the environment field, which is the real me. All the fields that happen to me may be called my doing. And that is the real sense of karma. But when we speak about the freedom of karma, free of being a puppet of the past, that simply involves a changing of your thinking. It involves, in other words, you getting rid of the habit of thought, where you define yourself as the result of what has gone before. Instead, get in the more plausible and more reasonable habit of thought, in terms of which you don't define yourself in terms of what you did before, but in terms of what you're doing now. And that is the liberation from the ridiculous situation of being a dog wagged by his tail.